Hello all, and welcome to another King Joe's Log. This video is actually going to be a long one, because in this video I'm going to show you what I have: a 91-92 Pro Line Portraits football autographs. Well, I got the checklist to the set. My dad, I don't know why he did this, but... And there's the 9-card checklist set. We start off Jim Kelly. A lot of the guys don't have their autographs on the front, so it's on the back. We have Jim Kelly, Carl Banks, Neil Anderson of the Bears, James Brooks of the Bengals, Reggie Langhorne of the Browns, what's that? Robert Atwell of the Cowboys, Greg Cragen, Steve Young, Nick Bell. Nobody signed on this front, so we go to the next one. Ray Childress, Albert Bentley, Albert Lewis, Howie Long, Willie Anderson, Mark Clayton, Gerard Bunch, Bruce Armstrong, Vinnie Clark. They'll be signed on this page, front-wise. Rob Moore, Eric Allen of the Eagles, Tim Rosenbaum, Gary Anderson, Martin Bayless. Who's this guy? Kevin Fagan, Brian Blades, Gary Anderson, Ernest Biner. Now this one had a couple autographs. There's the O.J. Simpson. And there's the James Lofton when he played for the Bills. Just so you know, there's the Simpsons got no number. There's Dan Henning, coach of the Chargers at the time. Sean Landetta. See, there's the Lofton thing. Mike Singletary. David Fulcher. Mark Murphy. Isaac Holt. Dennis Smith. Now this, I don't know who this guy is. Dwayne, he's a Colts player. I'll just say his name on the back. Lomas Brown. Ernest Givens. That was Dwayne Bickett. Barry Ward. Tony Mandarch, the incredible bust. Cleveland Gary. Pharrell Edmonds. Randall Hill. Irving Fryer. Nobody signed on the front of those cards. So Henry Jones, Blair Thomas of the Jets, Andre Waters of the Eagles, T.J. Smith, Thomas Everett, Mary Butts, Tom Rathman, Van McElroy, Mark Carrier of the Buccaneers. Nobody signed on the fronts of these cards. So Jim Lacey, Joe Theismann, Jerry Glanville, which, oh, he did. Couldn't see you on the dark jacket. Doug Reisenberg, Cornelius Bennett, Mark Carrier of the Bears, Rodney Holman, Leroy Horde, Michael Irvin, was that Bobby Humphreys, Steve DeBerg. Who's this guy? Mel Gray, Ryan Noble, Al Smith, Eric Dickerson, Jay Schrader, Irv Pankey, Reggie Roby. Okay, nobody signed on these fronts. Wade Wilson, Johnny Rembart, Russell Maryland, Al Toon, Randall Cunningham, Lonnie Young, Carnell Lake, Bert Grossman, Jim Mora. Let's see who we have here. Ricky Sanders, Roger Staubach, Dave Craig, what is that? Bruce Hill, Richard Williamson, Everson Walls, Shane Conlon, Mike Ditka, Mark Bortz, Tim McGee, Michael Dean Perry, Danny Hoonan, Mark Jackson of the Broncos, Chris Miller, Ed McCaffrey, Lorenzo White, Ray Donaldson, Nick Laurie. Let me see who this guy in the center is. I can't read his name. Ray Agnew is the guy in the center that's autographed. Steve Smith, Jackie Slater, Louis Oliver, Cannabis McGee, Sam Mills, Bill Pickle, Keith Byers, Ricky Prohl, Andre Reed, Andre Reed, Merle Hodge, Rod Bernstein, Andy Heck, Eugene Thomas, Andre Collins, Paul Warfield, Bill Belichick, Otis Anderson. Now, who's signed it on the front on this one? Alonzo Highsmith of the Cowboys. But then you have Andre Rison, Dwayne Carter, Anthony Munoz, Bernie Kosar, David Treadwell, Rodney Peete, Haywood Jeffries, Clarence Verdon, Christian Okoye, Greg Townsend, Tom Newberry, Keith Sims of the Dolphins, Myron Guyton, Andre Tippett, Steve Walsh, Eric McMillan, Jim McMahon, Derek Hill, David Johnson, Leslie O'Neal, Pierce Holt, Cortez Kennedy, Danny Peebles, Alvin Walton, Drew Pearson, Dick McPherson, Eric Howard, Steve Tasker, Bill Frelick, Don Warren, Eric Thomas, Jack Pardee, Gary Zimmerman, Leonard Marshall, Chris Spielman. Okay, he signed on the front, and that was John Stark. He's from the Colts. Sam Weish, Stefan Page, Lionel Washington, Henry Ellard, Dan Marino, Lindy Infante, Dan McGuire, Ken O'Brien. Tim McDonald will not sign, so that's a gap in this autograph set, but that's what his card would look like if Louis Lips, Billy Joel Tolliver, Harris Barton, Tony Wood, Matt Millen, Gale Sayers, Ron Meyer, William Roberts. Now, this guy here is Eugene Lockhart, Thurman Thomas, Steve McMichael, Ickey Woods, George Seifert, Keith Jones, Jack Trudeau, Kevin Porter, Ronnie Lott, which I guess he signed on the front. Yeah, you could barely see his autograph at different. Yeah, I didn't see it. So now this one, they're all on the back. Marty Schottenheimer, Morton Anderson, Anthony Thompson, Tim Worley, Billy Ray Smith, David Whitmore, Jacob Green, Browning Nagel, Franco Harris. Okay. Art Shell, Bart Oates, William the Refrigerator Perry, Chuck Noll, Troy Aikman, Jeff George, Derek Thomas, Roger Craig, John Fornicade. Any of these guys sign on the front? No. Rod Woodson, Anthony Miller, Jerry Rice, Eugene Robinson, Charles Mann, Mel Blount, Don Shula, Big John Jumbo Elliott, Jay Wittenberg. Nobody's signed on the front of these, so. Dion Cherry, Dan Reeves, Roman Pfeiffer, David Little, Lee Williams, John Taylor, Monty Coleman, Walter Payton, John Robinson. Nobody's signed on the cover of these. The front of these. Pepper Johnson, Tom Thayer, Dan Salamalu, Ernest Spears, Bubby Brister, Junior Seau, Brent Jones, Rufus Porter, Jack Kemp. Nobody's signed on the front of the next page either. Wayne Infante. Wayne Fonts. Wayne Infante. Phil Simms. Sean Gale. Bill Maas. Orlando Turnbull. Brian Hinkle. Gary Plummer. Jerry Burns. Lawrence Taylor. Nobody's signed on the front of the next 9 either. Joe Gibbs. Neil Smith. Rich Kotite. Jim Covert. Tim Gronard. Joe Bugle. Dave Wayman. Maury Buford. Kevin Ross. Okay, one guy signed on the front of this, and that was the the Bears' Kevin Butler. Then you have Jimmy Johnson, Jim Morrissey, Jeff Hostetler, Andre Ware, Steve Largent, Chuck Knox, Boomer Esiason, Bruce Smith of the Bills. Now I got here one of them that Warren Moon signed on the front, and James Francis is a card I'm missing. They say it doesn't exist, but I've seen one, so who knows. Webster Slaughter, Mike Sherrard, Steve Boussard, John Elway, Bob Golick, Jim Everett, Bruce Coslett. Okay, nobody's signed on the next 9 on the front. Eric Dorsey, Marcus Dupree, Hartley Dykes, Vinny Testaverde, Chip Lowmiller, John Riggins, Mike Shad, Kevin Green, Don Biucci, next 9, Mike Pritchard, who's this guy? Ted Washington, Alfred Williams, Chris Zorch, who's this guy? Reggie Barrett, Chris Hinton, Tracy Johnson, Jim Harbaugh, John Roper, then Keith McCants from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed on the front, Mike Dumas, Herman Moore, Eric Turner, Steve Atwater, Michael Coffer, Darian Connor, Derek Talley, Donnell Wolford, Ahmad Rashad, signed on the front of his card, Ray Hanley, Eric Swan, Dalton Hillard, Ricky Jackson, Vance Johnson, Eric Martin, Pat Swilling, Anthony Carter. Now, they had a Santa Claus card that year. Santa signed it. And this is Guy McIntyre. Who's that? Benny Blades and Paul Farron finish up the 1991 set, and they had a set of wives cards, which Felicia Rashad, I need her. But we have here Jennifer Montana, Babette Kozar, Janet Elway, Michelle Oates, Tony Lips, and Stacey O'Brien. Now we go to the 92 portraits. And none of those guys signed on the front. So we start off with Steve Entman, Al Edwards, Wendell Davis, Louis Billups, Brian Brennan, John Giesick, Terrell Buckley, Johnny Mitchell, Leroy Butler. They'll be signed on the fronts of these. So next one's William Fuller, Bill Brooks, Dino Hackett, Willie Gault, Aaron Cox, Jeff Cross, Emmett Smith, Marv Cook, Bill Fennery. Now Brad Baxter, Mr. Hit and Run, he's signed on the front of his 92 card. You got Jeff Carlson, Fred Barnett, Kurt Barber, Eric Green, Greg Clark, Heath DeLong, Patrick Hunter, Troy Vincent. Next 9. Gary Clark of the Redskins, Joe Montana. Very, very pathetic autograph by him, but hey, it's his certified autograph. Michael Haynes, Edgar Bennett, Darren Lewis, Derek Fenner, Rob Burnett, Alvin Harper of the Cowboys, Van Johnson, wide receiver of the Broncos. Next 9. William White, Sterling Sharp, Brian Jones, Jeff Herrod, Chris Martin, Ethan Horton, Robert Del Pino, Marv Higgs, Chris Dolman. James Hasty, supposedly did not sign, so that's John Hudson, Craig Ironhead, Craig Hayward, Kerry Conklin. That's what the guy who didn't sign card would have looked like the front. Antoine Davis, Ernie Jones, Greg Lloyd, avoid Lloyd, John Freeze, Charles Haley. Next 9. Stacy Scroggins, Paul Gruber, Ricky Irvins, Brad Muster, Neon Deion Sanders, Mitch Farrat, Stan Thomas, Harold Green, Eric Metcalf, Anthony Smith, suppose he didn't sign on these next 9. Ken Norton, Dave and Doug Wendell, Mike Tomczak, Bubba McDowell, Jesse Hester, Kevin Randall, that's what the card would have looked like, Pat Terrell, Jim Jensen. Now okay, got 2 guys here that signed on the front. Floyd Turner and Keith Henderson, Mike Merriweather, Chris Singleton, Jim Sweeney of the Jets, Keith Jackson of the Eagles, Walter Reeves of the Cardinals, Neil O'Donnell of the Steelers, boo, hiss, Nate Lewis. Now, there is Fred Biletnikoff. He's signed in silver on the front of his card. Kelly Stauffer, Ricky Reynolds, Joe Jacoby. Let's see, there's the certification. Jesse Tugel, Tom Waddle, Dave Shula, which is Don's son. He was the coach of the Bengals at the time. Van Walters, Jay Novacek. Nobody signed on the front of the next one. Michael Young, Mike Holgram, Doug Smith, Mike Pryor, Marv Williams, Aaron Wallace, Tony Zenjejas, Sammy Smith of the Broncos, Henry Thomas. Now who's the guy on top that's signed here? Brian Washington of the Jets signed on the front of his card. Then you have John Vaughn of the Patriots, Leon Searcy of the Steelers, Lance Smith, Warren Williams, Bobby Ross, used to be the coach of the Chargers, Harry Sidney, John L. Williams, Ken Willis. Now, Dennis Green, the coach of the Vikings, did not sign. We have here Brian Mitchell, Dick Butkus, Chuck Knox, Robert Porcher, Calvin Williams, Coach Bill Cowher, Eric Moore, Derek Brown. Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay, Dale Carter, and there's Tony Dorsett. They both signed on the front of their cards. Tom Flores, Marcus Coleman, Sam Weish, Ray Crockett, Dan Fouts. He signed in very, very small ink. I don't know if you can read it. Hugh Millen, Quentin Coriat, Brian Jordan, Frank Gifford, Toby Caston, Ted Marchiobroda, Chris Carter, Tim Kumri, Otto Graham, Vance Dunbar, John Fina. Okay, next guys didn't sign on the back, on the front either. Sonny Jurgensen, Robert Jones, Steve Diassi, Eddie LeBaron, Chester McLaughlin, Kenny the Snake Stabler, Joe Delamure, Charlie Say-Hey Taylor, Greg Skrepnek. There's Mark Rippon signed on the front of his. Then you have Y.A. Tittle, Chuck Smith, Kellen Winslow, Kevin Smith, Felipe Sparks, Alonzo Spellman, Darrell Williams, Tommy Vardell. Now, Al Davis did not sign, neither did Richard Todd. Well, Al Davis supposedly did sign, but I've never seen a card since I've been collecting this set, so. Tommy Maddox, Steve Israel, Marquise Pope, Eugene Chung, Lynn Swan, Stan Gilbert, Chris Sims. Of course, there's the 92 Santa Claus signed. Now we go to Mike Fox, David Klingler, Darren Woodson, Jason Hansen, and Lem Barney. Now, of course, they had wife cards, and I'm missing the Kathy Lee Gifford for this 9-card sheet. But then you have Ornis Carter, Faith Cherry, Kay Cowher, who passed away. She's actually in the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame. Denise Galt, Carol Hinton, Diane Long, Karen Lott, Felicia Moon. Now here's these, and that's Cindy Noble, Linda Seifert, Mitzi Testaverde, Robin Swilling, Leslie Visser, she was announcer for CBS, Tony Dolman, Diane Ditka, and then okay, there's the Mrs. Claus card. Then they had a special subset of the Rashad family. There's Felicia Rashad's autograph. There's Payne's, well, I'll just show you, because the Gibbs family I don't have, or the Gifford family. But we go back. Now, it's funny because on the front was Felicia, on the back is Ahmad, but it has the number on it, on the thing. But if you look very carefully, there's the seal. So, it's a certified autograph because it's got the seal stamp. And yeah, there's the Payne Stewart autograph. The Chris Dolman from ESPN. Dale Jarrett. Don and Dave Shula and Paul Tagliabue, who was the commissioner. Then they had a special 5-card celebrity set. And there's Muhammad Ali, Uncle Milton Berle, Don Mattingly, Martin Mull, and Isaiah Thomas. And then I just put, and these are actually some of the ones I have of the 93 set. Willie Rolfe, Patrick Bates, Jerome Bettis, Steve Berline, Tony Casillas, Chuck Cecil, Reggie Cobb, Pat Harlow, Eric Curry, Jeff Langman. There's the Brett Favre. I'll just show the guys' autographs and then say who they are because I can't tell. Gaston Green, Rodney Hampton, Tony Smith, Marvin Jones, Lincoln Kennedy, Mike Munchak, and that's the guy there, and like Whoopi. Terry McDaniel, Mike Munchak, Frank Reich, Shannon Sharp, Burt Jones, Billy Kilmer, Harvey Martin, Archie Manning, and then they had a couple. I got two wives autographed, and I have two of them that are not. But the two wives are Annette Rippon and Cindy Reed. And then I just threw these in here. These are actually called profiles. They had a 9-card autograph set per person, but I only got one Ronnie Lott. I have 2 of the Rodney Pete out of the 9, 2 of the Carl Banks, 1 of the Thurman Thomas autographs, 1 Roger Staubach of Rice, a Vinny Testaverde, and Anthony Carter. I got 2 Sterling Sharps, 1 Anthony Munoz, 1 Bubby Brister, 1 Bernie Kosar, 1, 2, 3 Art Shell ones, Don Shula, Joe Gibbs, 2 more Junior Seau, because you can see signed them on the front. 1, 2, 3, 4 Altoon out of the 9. 1 Jack Kemp. If you look at, there's the autographs. But I got 1 Jim Harbaugh, 2 Dan McGuires, 1 Troy Aikman, 2 Keith Byers, 1, 2. There's 3 Tim Rosenbachs on this one. Actually, I have 6 of the 9 Tim Rosenbach ones. So he's actually the closest one to the 9-card autograph set I have finished. 1 Chris Dolman, 1 Gary Clark. I got a John Elway, a Boomer. John Elway, Boomer, Jim Everett, 2 Eric Green, 2 Jerry Glanvilles, Jeff Hostetler, Haywood Jeffries. This page has got Michael Irvin, Steve Largent, Ken O'Brien, Christian Okoye, Michael Dean Perry, Sims, Smith, Derek Thomas. This page has got Pat Swilling, Eric Dickerson, Howie Long, Mike Singletary, John Taylor, Andre Tippett. I actually have 3 Andre Tippett autographs, and I actually like the artwork card the best autographed out of all of these if I can get them. Jim Kelly. Mark Rippon supposedly didn't sign, so. But Warren Moon, there's 1, 2, I think I have 3 Moons, no, 2 Moons. Deion Sanders, I have 2 Lawrence Taylor of the 9 card. There's his Pro Bowl, and there's the back of the other one. 2 Randall Cunninghams, 1 Ernest Biner, is that another one? 2 Mike Ditka, Gale Sayers, Jay Novacek, Ray Childress. And this is just an uncut, promo sheet. And that does it for my 91, 92, and 93 Pro-Line portrait autographs and what I have of the profiles. So as always, I thank you for viewing and subscribing.